In the occupied Palestinian territory, the escalating tragedy in Gaza is of particular concern. The blockade by sea and land, which Israel has imposed for 13 years, has brought Gaza's main economic and commercial activities to a complete halt. The blockade, which contravenes international law, has conclusively failed to deliver security or peace for Israelis and Palestinians.
I give the floor to United Nations Watch.
Madam President, we meet on a historic day. For the past century, the Middle East has been the scene of war, bloodshed, enmity, and suffering. In the Arab-Israeli conflict, hostilities have included deadly wars in 1948, 56, 73, and 82, as well as other deadly wars of attrition and terror. In Israel and Arab countries, an estimated 230,000 men, women, and children were injured or lost their lives. Now, worldwide, the conflict sparked fears of a clash between the nuclear-armed superpowers, while the Arab oil embargo of 1973 shocked the global economy, quadrupled the price of oil, and triggered a worldwide energy crisis. Those applying this embargo included Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates. Madam President, today is a historic day. In the 20th century, a total of 2 peace accords were achieved between Israel and Arab states, Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. Yet today, in one day, that number will double. Only moments from now, on the White House lawn, both the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain will sign peace agreements with Israel. The 3 countries have already begun speaking of a new era of peace, normalization, mutual cooperation, trade, tourism, prosperity, and hope. The peace agreements have been welcomed by countries around the globe, from Canada to Australia, Germany, France, and they include countries in the region such as Egypt, Oman, and Saudi Arabia, which itself just announced days ago that it will allow overflight rights to planes flying to and from Israel. Indeed, this is a day of hope. But I am confused. If the United Nations and this Human Rights Council truly care about human rights and peace, why did the United Nations Human Rights Chief just speak here, making numerous references to the Middle East, yet without mentioning once this historic moment of peace and hope? Why instead did she only point the finger of blame at one side, at Israel? Why did she not mention the peace agreements that are being signed today in Washington? Does this Human Rights Council truly want peace and human rights for everyone? If we look at this session, we see that on the agenda there are 10 items, and only one singles out one country. That's agenda item 7, which singles out Israel, the only country subjected to its own agenda item. If we look at the resolutions of this council, nearly half of the resolutions that condemn countries every single year single out Israel in one-sided resolutions. If we look at the mandate of the expert on the Palestinian territories, his mandate is only to examine Israel's violations and not to look at Hamas, Islamic Jihad, or others. On this historic day, when Arab countries and Israel come together in peace, the question before the United Nations and the Human Rights Council is truly a crucial question. Do they really want peace? Do they really want human rights?